my god, no. Hey guys, welcome back to FilmGeek520. My name is Helen, and today I am so excited because I finally get to talk about Booksmart. Now you might be asking, Helen, why are you reviewing it now? Hasn't it been out on digital for a while? Well, there are two answers to this. One, I like to watch my favorite movies on Blu-ray to give it the respect it deserves. And two, I live in England and Booksmart only just came out a couple weeks ago on DVD as opposed to America where it's been out for over a month now. There are downsides to living in a different country, but I'm willing to live with it. Anyways, Booksmart is a high school comedy film directed by Olivia Wilde from a screenplay by Emily Halpern and Sarah Haskins, Katie Silberman, and Susanna Fogel. It premiered at South by Southwest on March 10th, 2019, and it received a wide release in the US on May 24th of the same year. The film cost about $6 million to make, and it made $24 million worldwide at the box office. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The story follows high school seniors Molly and Amy, played by Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever, respectively, two very successful and straight-laced students who discover on the last day of school that despite their hard work, their perceived slacker classmates have gotten into the same prestigious colleges that they did. Desperate not to miss out on having fun in high school, they decide to attend a house party the night before graduation to prove that they can still be cool, but everything goes wrong in every way that they can imagine. The best way that I can describe this movie is that this is the film that I wish that I had seen in high school. First, we have to start with the cast. This film is led by two absolutely stunning lead performances by Caitlin Dever as Amy and Beanie Feldstein as Molly. Their friendship is so good and so pure, it's so palpable, and it's so refreshing to see on screen. Each character is given their own fully realized arc over the course of the night, and neither one is sacrificed so that the other can have some more shine. Amy goes from being slightly shy to having a lot more confidence, and Molly realizes how bossy she's been and she learns to appreciate her fellow classmates more. Dever and Feldstein actually lived together before and during filming of the movie to build up the friendship that these characters would have had over years of knowing each other, and their chemistry in the movie is off the charts. The supporting cast is absolutely hilarious as well, and even if they don't get as much screen time as the leads, every single one of them makes the most of their screen time and leaves a lasting mark. I mean, where do I even start? There is Principal Brown, played by Jason Sudeikis, who hilariously pops up as an Uber driver later on in the film. There's Jared, played by Skylar Gisondo, who is this rich kid who throws his own party on a yacht to compete with Nick's, but you realize that he's really just looking for a friend, and also wants to create some more original musicals instead of revivals. Respect. There's Jessica Williams as Miss Fine, Molly and Amy's favorite teacher, who assists them to getting to the party, but also has a weird past that shows up in an unexpected way later on. And, of course, there is the character that steals not only the scenes she's in, but the entire film, Billie Lourd as Gigi, this crazed rich girl who just cannot stop popping up on screen and making me laugh. Seriously, go watch a YouTube compilation of her scenes. She appears on screen in the movie for a grand total of only 6 minutes, and she steals every single second of them. If she does not win a Best Supporting Actress Oscar this year, we riot. The music is used so absolutely perfectly in this movie as well, and just like Hustlers, there is not a lot of moments of actual score. Unlike Hustlers, however, most of the music in Booksmart is from artists that aren't necessarily mainstream, apart from appearances by Lizzo, Alanis Morissette, Ice Cube, and MIA. Each song is used at the exact moment that it needs to be. I mean, the perfect example of this is Lakely 47's Money, used when Gigi comes on screen for the first time. Mwah! The movie's instrumental score comes courtesy of Dan the Automator and provides the backdrop for one of the most pivotal moments in the entire film between Amy and Molly. Their climactic fight is brutal to watch, and as soon as they stop making any legitimate points about each other and just start throwing insults at each other, The music overtakes the dialogue, and all we see are their lips moving. We don't need to know what they're saying. All we need to know is the reactions on their faces, and then the terrifying glow of the camera phones that belong to the other partygoers who are videotaping the entire interaction. That scene makes my blood run cold. This brings me to the absolutely brilliant directorial choices that Olivia Wilde makes throughout the entire course of this film. For me, this is one of the strongest executions of a director's vision for their film that I've seen in the last few years. I'm being dead serious. This is stylistically above and beyond what we would expect of a typical teen movie made this decade. The aforementioned fight actually takes place at the end of a one-take sequence after Amy discovers that her longtime crush is actually straight and making out with Molly's crush, and the frantic movement of the camera just mirrors the heightened anxiety and fear that Amy is feeling in that moment. And it's so good at just putting you in her shoes and feeling the high intensity of emotion that she does. Wilde and the writers also handle Amy's same-sex love story in such a delicate and different way than we've seen in so many mainstream movies, and even, probably I would say better than even in Love, Simon. I mean, for a start, Amy is already an out lesbian at the beginning of the film. She says that she's been out for 2 years already. So this is not necessarily a story about her coming out. It's about her dealing with her first crush and her anxiety about wondering if this person likes her back. And honest to God, who has not felt that same anxiety about telling the person that they like about their feelings for them? That's something that is so universal regardless of gender or sexuality. And to be honest, that feeling encapsulated a lot of my high school experience. So I salute you, Amy. And Ryan, Amy's female crush, and Nick, Molly's male crush, they don't really do anything to wrong Amy and Molly. They're just not aware of what either of them feels for them. That's not meant to be villainous in any way. I mean, if you don't tell someone you like them, they're just not gonna know. Amy does eventually end up having sex with another girl named Hope, played by Diana Silvers, and this scene is so decidedly not shot for the male gaze, and I love it. It does not contain excessive nudity, and the camera movement likewise conveys Amy's anxiety about the entire ordeal. And the scenario was awkward as hell, just like it would be in real life. I mean, Amy and Hope are just fumbling around and Amy gets it slightly wrong, but it's her first time. She's not supposed to be an expert. First times are always awkward, and I cannot thank this movie enough for conveying that. The film also talks about porn and masturbation from a specifically and practically female perspective. Again, something that isn't seen often on screen. It's such a shame that this film has an R rating, because this is a movie that I would have loved to have seen in high school, if only to know that these girls had the same joys, fears, anxieties, confusion, whatever that I did. I mean, I can see why it was rated R, even with all the sexual references. The swearing is up the wazoo. On top of everything else, this movie takes the perceptions that we and Amy and Molly have about their fellow classmates and teachers, really, at the beginning of the film, and completely flips them on their head. People like Jared and Gigi and AAA and George and Alan. We begin the film with certain perceptions about who these characters are going to be and what kind of archetypes that they're going to fill. But just like our two leads, we realize by the end of the film that at the bottom of it, they're just kids trying to get by, just like the rest of us. Lastly, since the film is a comedy, I suppose I should give some insight on the humor of it. This is the funniest movie that I have seen in at least a decade, and I'm someone who really freaking loves Thor Ragnarok. Every time Molly and Amy's quest to get to the party of the year gets sidetracked, something outrageous and hilarious happens again to just make me laugh from my gut. I'm not going to spoil any of them because I want you to laugh out loud like I did in the cinema back in May. The film's comedy also comes with a side of heart. We are never laughing at our characters' misery. We are laughing with them as they go through the night. The humor is extremely smart and consistent, and it sticks the landing every single time. Which is why I am so continually saddened that this movie did not have the box office success that it deserved. I mean, look at what Hustlers is doing right now. Booksmart should have had the same amount of success as this movie, because it is arguably a bit better, and I liked Hustlers a lot. Go check out my last video. There has been a lot of talk about what went wrong with how this movie was put out, and it actually has drawn some comparisons to Lady Bird's release schedule. First, Annapurna Pictures, who is the studio behind Booksmart, ended up marketing it as the female version of Superbad, which, in my opinion, completely misses the mark about what this movie is about. In fact, there is actually little in common between these two films, aside from having two leads, it being set in high school and a comedy, and one of the leads being a Feldstein. Beanie Feldstein is Jonah Hill's sister. Sure, there are some raunchy moments in the film, but we're never meant to be laughing at our characters when they're at their lowest moments. We're not supposed to be having fun with their misery. I think that this led the public that they were trying to target to think that this movie was more shallow than it actually turned out to be. The other huge mistake that Annapurna made with regards to putting this movie out is that they decided to put it out in the height of summer movie season in May. I sort of get where they were coming from this. It is a movie that takes place on the last day of school, and they put it out near the last day of school. But the problem with this strategy is that no matter what day it had gotten released on at any point in the summer, it was going to have to compete with a major blockbuster. In the case of Booksmart, it ended up having to compete with the live-action remake of Aladdin on the weekend of its release. Now, there was no doubt that Booksmart's potential placing probably wouldn't have been higher than second place. I mean, there's no competing with a huge blockbuster that Disney is putting out financial-wise, as much as we would like to think so. But despite a predicted opening weekend of $12 million, it only made over half of that, and it finished in 6th. Some of the blame for this was placed on the fact that it opened straight into a wide release instead of starting with the limited release and then gradually opening as word of mouth got out, much like Lady Bird did. I think this would have been a much better approach in order to let the word of mouth build, and I think that the decision to put this out in the middle of summer pretty much made this movie dead on arrival. This is a movie that would have benefited from the same sort of release schedule that Lady Bird had in the last quarter of the year, especially because this would have been a major award show contender and critics definitely ate it up. I mean, it has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. So overall, I think it would have been a lot more successful had it been released really around this time of the year in October. The third major problem with the marketing strategy that Annapurna Pictures went with is that the marketing itself happened and appeared on the line and in press so very last minute. If you were going to compete with blockbusters whose marketing campaigns effectively started 3 years prior to its release, you need to be putting out marketing for your mid-budget movie at least a few months prior. 1 trailer, maybe 2, some behind-the-scenes featurettes, more online advertising, print advertising. More needed to be done in this case, and it just wasn't. I mean, as it stands, I did not know that Booksmart as a movie even existed until about, 3 weeks before it came out in the UK. There is absolutely no way that this movie could have pulled in the big numbers that they were expecting if nobody even knew about it ahead of time. I mean, yes, it's screened by South by Southwest, fine. But it could have gotten that same press buzz in like September at Telluride or TIFF or any of the other major festivals going on that have award season contenders premiering. I mean, look at what the critical reaction to Hustlers did for its box office performance less than like 2 weeks later. Not to mention that Hustlers was much more clearly marketed in the months prior to its release, on top of the fact that it had a major star, which sorry, Booksmart didn't have. Good word of mouth will translate into good box office results, and a staggered release for Booksmart would have helped this so much. Critics' opinions on a film are one thing, but if there's a film that I'm kind of interested in and my friends are saying really good things about it, I'm definitely going to be able to trust the opinions of my friends whom I actually know more. And I'll be more likely to check it out. Annapurna is more known as a production company and usually trusts their distribution to more experienced studio partners. Booksmart is one of their first forays into distributing their own work, and this is through a collaboration with MGM called United Artist Releasing. And in my humble opinion, they completely botched it. They also ended up botching the release of another critical darling, Leica Animation Studios' Missing Link, which came out in April and also did really terrible at the box office. Yes, the young female demographic that they were going for Booksmart, they did turn up to see the movie in theaters, but unfortunately, everyone else who I would argue needed to see this movie more, they didn't. And that is a huge shame because Booksmart deserves all of the praise and success in the world for just how wonderful it is. And yet its filmmakers and director and cast were reduced to begging people to go see it on opening weekend and like the following weekend and whatnot. No filmmaker of a film of this size and budget should ever have to fight for their movie like that. Which is why Annapurna should, in my humble opinion, and I'm sorry to say this, Megan Ellison, because you've put out some good work, you should leave the marketing to the professionals if you want your films to succeed. Sorry. In any case, Booksmart is now out on DVD, Blu-ray streaming, all the platforms, and I highly, highly encourage you to check it out. Watch it with your friends, family. You guys will have a rip-roaring good time. It is one of the most beautiful, funny, and heartwarming movies I've seen in a while, and I cannot wait to see what Olivia Wilde does next as a director. The Oscar campaign starts now. As for next week, I'm going to take a break from the more recent critical darlings that I've been talking about, and I'm going to talk about one of my childhood favorites, The Parent Trap, the 1998 version, obviously. Let me know your thoughts on Booksmart in the comments below, as well as suggestions for movies for me to review in the future. Make sure to subscribe for more videos every Sunday. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at HelenMarie95 and on Instagram at HelenMarie_95. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so very much for watching my review/rant about Booksmart. Remember to keep living awesome lives, and I will see you all next week. Bye.